Hey everyone, welcome. It's Alison Marlowe here with another very, very special Global Winning Women live chat. And I'm delighted that you could join me because I'm so excited today. My guest is the multi-award winning lawyer, Suzanne Dibble, who I have been trying to track down for some time to have this chat with. Suzanne is so unique in what it is that she offers, and I'm going to allow Suzanne to share a little bit about that with you in a moment. But Suzanne has this most incredible mission, and her mission really is to make business law for small business owners less daunting, more relevant and more accessible. And I can certainly attest to that myself after hiring Suzanne to help me as I started to put together the license agreements for our Winning Women ambassadors, for all our amazing ambassadors around the country. And, you know, without Suzanne's help, I wouldn't be in the position that I am today. So the thing is with Suzanne, she isn't your stereotypical lawyer. Suzanne's not only incredibly approachable and friendly, she really does meet you where you're at. And one of the things that I was so concerned about when I knew that I needed some legal help was that I wouldn't be able to understand the jargon. Well, with Suzanne, you don't need to worry about any of that. She really does make the whole process of working with you so straightforward. I mean, that's so easy. It was just so smooth. And I really cannot thank Suzanne enough for the help that she has provided for me within Winning Women, which is one of the reasons why I really wanted to interview her, but also because, you know, in business we talk about becoming the go-to person. Well, Suzanne absolutely is. In small business, she is absolutely the go-to person for any legal requirements whatsoever. I think we just really need to get Suzanne online. Welcome, Suzanne. I don't think that I can say any more. I think I need you to come and share your story. So welcome.
Thank you, Alison. I'm just sitting here blushing, hearing all the lovely things that you have to say about me. But no, it seems an awfully long time ago now that I was helping you with your license agreement. So a lot's gone under the bridge since then, and I've, you know, it's been an absolute joy seeing how you're building up Winning Women. So well done on that.
Thank you so much. And Suzanne, you know, one of the things that I have always been really intrigued about, and obviously because our conversations typically in the past have, you know, been business related, but today I'm really hoping that I can just dig a little bit beneath the surface. I'm really intrigued about your journey as a business owner because, you know, I know you've worked with FTSE 100 clients on £1 billion deals, and alongside the likes of Richard Branson and Simon Woodruff, and if anybody who doesn't know who that is, the founder of Yo Sushi. Oh my goodness me, you know, you just had this most amazing career, and now here you are, you have transformed yourself into becoming the go-to legal expert for small businesses. So, you know, tell me a little bit about this transformation. What happened?
Well, where do I start? Gosh, well, yeah, I did have a textbook career, really. It was, you know, sort of university, doing law, articles at one of the top city law firms, which is like where you train to be a lawyer, is what we call articles, although it's called training contract these days. In the old days, it was called articles. And yeah, I did mergers and acquisitions, running multi-million-pound deals at one of the biggest, well, it's now the biggest law firm in the world. You know, I was 25 years old and I was leading teams of 40 people doing these multi-million-pound deals with a room full of sort of middle-aged men and telling them what to do. And it was awesome.
Wow.
You know, the adrenaline buzz was like nothing else, really. But along with that went the hours, unfortunately. You know, it was not uncommon to work 16, 17 hour days. You know, sometimes if there was a completion on, I was working sort of 4 days without any sleep. And it got to a point when I was about 30 and I thought, you know, this just isn't compatible with having a family life. And there was only one female partner in the department that I was in, and she had her first son at an only son at the age of 42. And I was sitting in the next door office to her, And I would hear her on the phone to her son on a Monday night saying, "Don't cry, darling, mummy will see you at the weekend." And I just, that's when it really hit home. I just thought, yes, I absolutely love my job with a passion, but I'm not willing to sacrifice seeing my kids. So at that point, I moved to ITV, which is where I worked on the £1 billion project, which was actually the digital switchover project. So when we all switched our TVs from analog to digital, I did all the contracts for that for ITV. So that was hugely interesting.
Wow.
And then I got headhunted to go to a international property company where I was a main board director. So that was really interesting because I moved much more into a business strategy role. I really was sort of, having a great input into the direction of the business. So I'd always been quite a practical lawyer. But there, I think I just got even more of a grounding on the business side. And then, of course, I started up my own small business and just, I am one of you. I'm not this lawyer who knows nothing about small businesses, because I am the same as you. I have shared the same pain of trying to work out why my Facebook campaign isn't converting, that kind of thing. And that was about the time that I decided that I wanted a family. So there was some restructurings at my last job that meant that I got quite a nice payoff that sort of tided me over whilst I got set up and won some new clients. And pretty quickly, really, I managed to establish myself, as you say, certainly initially the go-to lawyer for mumpreneurs, so mums like me who had started their businesses to work around their families. And more latterly, sort of expanding out into small businesses in general. So that's been that's a summary of my journey, Alison, as to why I'm here.
And what an amazing story. And you have 2 young daughters now, don't you?
I do. Jessica is just over 1 and Amelia is 3 and a bit. Yes, and they're both wonderful.
Yeah. Oh, and that's amazing because, you're another one of these fabulous women that is living proof that we can also run a business and have a family and have the balance and the harmony with that as well. But what an amazing story that you have to tell. You were 25 years old. I think I was just beginning to really start my career at that age. I had no idea what it was that I wanted to do at that time. So
oh yes, and of course I forgot my Richard Branson story, which is the story that I generally trot out. Any kind of, if anyone's doing a celebrity story, I have to trot out my Richard Branson story, which is that, again, about the age of 20, I think it's probably 26, 27 by this time. I was working, I went to work with Virgin at their head office and was working alongside Richard Branson. And at the time, I don't really think I appreciated what a unique role that was. I speak to small business owners now who would literally give their right arm to meet Richard Branson, and yet there was I, conversing with him regularly. I went round to his house in Holland Park a number of times. We went out for dinner, just 4 of us. Went clubbing. It was just this amazing for someone in the mid-20s. It was just an amazing place to be, really. And I think my entrepreneurial spirit was certainly developed whilst I was working at Virgin and seeing how Richard operated. And he had an amazing team there as well, very, very entrepreneurial in their outlook. So that was a definite, point in my journey that led me towards setting up my own business and being sort of more entrepreneurial in my outlook. Yeah.
Wow, I've got a massive smile on my face here at the moment, Suzanne, because that's just absolutely incredible. And along that journey, as you said, you probably didn't appreciate, what you were actually really learning from Richard Branson and Virgin, at that time as well. And I think this is absolutely amazing because what you have really created here, you've really managed to fill a gap, a massive gap that, nobody was really touching, particularly with the mumpreneurs, because one of the things that I'm so passionate about is women coming out of corporate by choice and being able to really tap into their skills, their talents, their dreams, and to really utilize these in setting up a business. And quite often I see people do this and they initially set up as almost like a hobby. and have no idea where it's going to take them. And then before they realize it, it's like, oh my gosh, I think I've got something really special here. And, you know, that's when we need somebody like you to come along and give some really useful, practical, but also legal advice that will really ensure that we're setting things up in the correct way. So
that's right. And just one thing to point there is that you're absolutely right in that you were, as is your nature, Alison, you were talking about the very optimistic side of it in terms of, or not very optimistic side in terms of you have a great idea and it's going to go, you know, off the scale. You're going to start licensing it around the world, you know, something like you're doing with your business, which is awesome. But a lot of people start up businesses as hobbies and just don't realize the potential mess that they can get themselves into. So a friend spoke to me the other day and said, oh, you know, you know, now Archie's at school, I'm a little bit bored. I want to, you know, start doing something. I was thinking about setting up an online jewelry business with my friend. And I said, well, that's great, but have you thought about this, and this? And she looked at me with her mouth open and said, actually, I don't think I'm going to do that now. And I don't want to put people off starting a business, but I think people just do sometimes think of it as a bit of a hobby and don't realize actually the things that can go wrong. You know, she hadn't thought about liability at all. So, you know, what happens if she supplied some earrings and you know, or some type of jewelry and there was a big reaction, you know, what would happen then, and how to limit her liability that way. Or, you know, if there were supply problems, what she needed to put on her website, you know, so many issues that just were not on her radar at all. And that's one of the reasons why I did look to help mums in business, first of all, because typically, you know, mums, if you're juggling kids as well, it is generally a low scale business. You know, you're not going to want to go to the bank and get a big loan to invest in your business. So people generally are setting it up on a real budget. And I just wanted to provide that really accessible, affordable help for those people, because it just makes me mad that some people are just priced out of legal services, so that they are really exposing themselves to, you know, lots of unnecessary risk.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, you absolutely filled that gap. Many of my clients have worked with you, and you know, I know that I've recommended you to many new people as well that just sort of crossed my path along the way. So and we were just talking just before we officially started chatting, you know, just saying that your name came up in conversation just at the weekend as well. So you know, I think this is great. I think this would be a really good starting point for us to dig in a little bit deeper, Suzanne. What does every business need to know to really stay on the right side of the law when setting up? You know, just run us through just a few little things here, please.
Okay, well, in summary, because obviously I could spend a lot longer talking about these things, but just really high level sort of flags really for people to think, aha, that probably applies to me. So for any small business that is, you know, typically operating from home without any employees, then there's probably only a handful of issues that can significantly impact on your business. Now, the first thing that I see happening a lot is you get the position where somebody's thought of this great idea. They invest quite a bit in, you know, business cards, getting a website done. Lots of, you know, people like branding, don't they? You know, you like your brand to look nice, so you might, you know, pay a designer to do your logo and all that expense that goes with that. And they're trading for 6 months, and then someone comes along and says, "Hang on a minute, you're using our trademark name. You need to stop using that right now, or we will bring a claim against you." So you literally have no choice. You have to rebrand. And if your business is, you know, you're sort of 6 months, a year, well, at whatever stage really, that is going to have a huge impact on your business, not just financially, because you have to redo, you know, get a new logo, redo your business cards, redo your website, redo everything else. But also because, you know, you spent time building up your name under that, your reputation and your business under that name. So just think about your Facebook page, for example. You know, you probably have to change, well, you would have to change the name of your Facebook page. And last time I looked, Facebook don't let you do that very easily. So if you'd built up, say, 1,000 fans, and we all know how hard that is, you know, you would literally have to start again with that. So the first thing that people need to do is just, be really careful when literally just choosing their name. There's a number of things that we need to check. Even from the most basic, just do a Google search and see if anybody else is actually within a similar area is using the same or similar name. There's ways that you can search on the trademark registry online for free. And you want to check that nobody's using it as a limited company name. And also importantly, that even if somebody isn't already using your name, then you might want to trademark your name in future. So do think about whether it's actually capable of being trademarked. And there's some really useful advice on that on the Intellectual Property Office website. So I won't say any more about that because it's quite a big issue. But just to flag the issue that you need to think really carefully about your business name when you're first starting up. Okay.
Yes. Fabulous. That's really good advice there. Thank you.
Okay. Then the next thing that people need to think about is terms of business. They're your number one important business protection. They limit your liability, most importantly. But nearly as importantly, they also set out what you're going to provide for your customer. And actually, the area where I see more disputes is in mismatched expectations. So, particularly for some reason, particularly in website design and development, you think that you want, this wonderful website that you have in your head, and then your designer comes up with something completely different. And, you fall out, you don't want to pay the last installment because it's not what you wanted. They take you to court, etc. You can see how it could all go horribly wrong. So two things here. Number one, do have terms of business in which your liability is limited as much as possible. And there's lots of law and rules about how you can limit your liability. It's not straightforward. I'm going to tell you later on how, some really easy resources that you can find to know more about this and put some really simple steps into place to protect yourself. But this is just to highlight the main issues. So you need terms of business, and they need to limit your liability, plus lots of other things and protections that they can do in there, but that's the main thing. But secondly, just be really, really clear about what you're providing for your customer. Okay, just literally in plain English. If you're the customer and you're engaging someone, be really clear about that as well. So, for example, if you are engaging the website designer, then literally do the most detailed scope of work that you can do. What you want the site to look like. There's actually a great app called Balsamiq, BALSAMIQ, and it allows you to do mock-ups of web pages. It's like a drag and drop system. I think it's a free trial. And it allows you to drag and drop things, so you can literally recreate the look of different pages of your website. So I've just had a site created for me recently, and for every page I went in and did a mock-up of exactly how I wanted it to look. And you can put little sticky notes on there with notes and things like that. But the clearer you can be about either if you're the supplier, if you're the provider, what you're providing, and if you're the customer, what you're expecting, then that will limit the disputes that you're going to be involved in.
Great.
Wow. So then we did touch on suppliers there. So the point with suppliers being, just be really clear about what you're expecting. But number two is, I think, a lot of small business owners, Alison, when you're presented with a supplier's standard terms, you just think, okay, that's the standard terms, and just accept it. You don't think to even probably read them half the time, let alone try and understand what they actually mean. Or if you don't like the look of something, say, hang on a minute, can we change that? Or if you don't understand something, say, well, I don't understand what that means. Can you tell me what that means? So most of the time, we just completely accept what a supplier's terms and conditions say. And I'll just share with you, if I may, a little case study here, a real life case study of a client of mine. I can't name names, obviously, but it's a true story. And it just highlights how important it actually is to actually read and understand and change, if you're not happy with them, your supplier's terms. So in this particular instance, my client decided to change her email marketing provider. And she was in an industry that had she did a lot of last minute special offers, and that was a big bit of her business. So it was critical that her open rates on these emails were good. And so she had a great open rate. She thought, oh, it's about time I invest in a more sophisticated email marketing provider. And so signed up to a much more expensive email service provider, and probably didn't even look at the contract. So when she switched, her open rates literally fell through the floor. And business was, I can't remember exactly how much she said her business was down, but it was really significant. It was like 50% down. Wow. So she had lots of back and forths with the supplier, saying, what's going on with these open rates, back and forth. And again, rather than getting on the phone and really tying them down, I saw this chain of emails where, she was letting it go sort of, 10, 20 days before, without a response before, back and forth. If you're in that position, just pick up the phone, and sort of really, and don't be tenacious, I guess is the word. Be tenacious with your suppliers. Don't be fobbed off too easily. So this went on for, sort of 12 months, where she was still suffering with these open rates. So eventually she had enough, sent an email saying, I'm not happy, I'm going back to the old supplier, and pretty much thought that was the end of it. And she did go back to the other supplier. But about 7 months later, she got an invoice from the new supplier invoicing her for the whole of that period when she thought she'd terminated the agreement. And that's the point when she got in touch with me. And so I had a look at it all, and found the contract that she hadn't read. And turns out that there was a minimum period of 2 years, bad enough. But then if you didn't terminate by sending a letter to the supplier's registered office by registered post on the exact day of that second anniversary of the contract, then the agreement would roll over for another 2-year period. So legally, she hadn't terminated the agreement at all when she sent that email saying she was going back to the old supplier. She would have had to have really read and understood that contract and realised that she had to serve notice by registered post for it to arrive on the second anniversary of the agreement to legally prevent it from rolling over for another 2-year period and for her being tied in for 4 years in total. So can you see how, just by not understanding some, it's probably like a couple of sentences in an agreement, that she could have been, and actually I got involved, and we looked at some of the things, and I wrote a letter, and I actually managed to extract her from that. But a fair bit of expense for her, to be fair, because it took a long time to work out. We'll look at all the emails, work out what had actually happened, blah blah blah, and think of inventive ways to get out of it. But I just, that's just one example of the type of thing where if people don't understand what they're getting into, 4 years of those high payments for a substandard service, yes. It's not a good place to be in. So in summary, make sure you read and understand your supply agreements, and don't be afraid of questioning things. And, and if you don't like what you're reading, then negotiate it. They want your business.
Absolutely.
So.
Of course they do, at the end of the day, essentially. But, I think you've really hit upon something here. It is all too easy just to sign on the dotted line, isn't it? Without really going through almost with a tooth, like a fine tooth comb, and just, reading every single individual clause there. Yeah. So that is really, really good advice. And especially as we lead such busy lives, we sometimes think to ourselves, oh yeah, just sign and that's done. And, we can move forward on to the next thing. Yeah. But as you said, just demonstrated by this story, how important, how much time, how much money can be lost, how much energy can be lost if we're just not.
No, that's right.
Incredibly clear.
Exactly.
So, gosh.
Yeah. And she had wasted so much time and energy on that matter, and a fair bit of money as well in the end. So yeah, it's really, really key. And this is why Alison, I'm just so determined to really raise awareness of this type of issues with small business owners, because so many of these issues could just so easily have been prevented if they just had a little bit of awareness and then just some simple tools to put in place. So I don't know how we're doing for time. I mean, there's a couple of other points that I could mention, but if that's enough to make people start thinking for now, then I'll be guided by you, Alison.
Well, I mean, let's see where this goes, Suzanne, because I was going to say, you know, that you've talked a little bit about the expectations between a client and a customer, you know, and the service provider. We've also talked about this issue here about terms and conditions and, you know, really making sure that we're clear on what's laid out in contracts. What would you say are some of the other kind of frequent mistakes that you're typically seeing people make? And you know, how can we avoid them? That's probably the best question, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, gosh, there's so many mistakes. There really are. But they all come down to sort of probably about 10 key areas. I see a lot of mistakes around people when they're getting to the stage where they need to take people on to help them in their business. So if you're taking on contractors or employees, lots and lots of mistakes that people make there, because people just don't understand the structure and how things work. So a lot of people will take on someone and they'll think, oh, I don't want to employ them. I don't really know the ins and outs, but I know that just sounds like a bit of a headache. I don't want to go down that route. So they will just think, oh, well, I'll just call them a contractor. Genius. But unfortunately, the law and HMRC will ignore what you actually decide to call the person helping you. They look at the true nature of the relationship. And you know, if that relationship is structured in a way that is an employment relationship, then it doesn't matter what you call the person, they will be an employee. And if you haven't appreciated that up front, that can lead to a number of quite serious consequences. So, for example, you'd be liable for all the backdated tax and penalties that you haven't been paying, the employer NICs and things like that. But also, you know, down the road, if and when you fall out with your contractor, a lot of them are becoming more savvy, and they might go to, you know, if they know anything about the law, or they've got a lawyer friend. And I'm seeing this much more, is that people who, to all intents and purposes, actually agreed that they were a contractor were actually then, after you'd fallen out, brought a claim saying, no, actually, I was an employee, and you've just dismissed me, but, you know, unfair dismissal, and taken people to employment tribunals and won their case. So you have to be really careful to work out whether someone is a contractor or an employee. There's lots of things that impact on that, but in summary, just to give you a rough idea, it pretty much comes down to control. So if you have somebody who you say, okay, I want you to come in on a Monday, Wednesday and Friday between these hours, and here's what I want you to do, and they're using your computer and, you know, whatever else, then chances are they're an employee. Now, sometimes I get people who say, oh yeah, but my employee works, you know, they work for 5 other people, so they can't be an employee. Well, they can. They've just got 5 part-time jobs.
Okay, I see how that works.
So, and if for a contractor, it's really like, so Alison, if you were to come to me and say, Suzanne, I'd really like you to help me with redoing my license agreement, I could say, Alison, I'd love to, but I'm really tied up right now. So, you know, I'm afraid I can either do it mid-March, or I can refer you to, you know, recommend someone else. Okay, I'm your contractor, you know, I'm not your employee. Whereas if I was your employee, you'd be saying to me, Suzanne, draft that document now. In the nicest way.
I get
yeah. So, but there's lots of issues that I see around that, and also, and just not having contracts with your contractors or your freelancers or whoever you're using to help you. There's you know, lots of horrible things that can happen there. Like I've had all kinds of things like contractors taking confidential information and stealing clients, and yeah, lots around solicitation of clients, particularly where if the contractor is working directly with your customers. So, for example, if I'm a lawyer and I take on a freelance lawyer to do my overflow work, and so that other lawyer is working directly with you, say, Alison, if we fall out, me and the contractor fall out, me and the freelance lawyer rather, if we fell out, then that lawyer could in theory go directly to you, Alison, and say, hey Alison, I've been doing your work for the last couple of years, it's us who've got the relationship, why don't you just come straight to me in the future and cut Suzanne out? And I see that happening a lot. And, sometimes you can't do anything about it, because if the relationship has moved to that other person, then, the client will probably want to stay with them anyway. And it doesn't really matter what you say in your terms and conditions. If that's what the client wants, then, that's probably what's going to happen. But in some cases, contractors have gone round to all of the clients, even where they've not been working with them directly, and saying, look, we'll offer you a 30% discount on what you're paying at the moment if you come with us. And people have literally lost, nearly all their client base overnight. So that's a big issue.
Gosh.
And
so I guess go on, carry on.
No, I could sit here talking all day, Alison, so please do rein me in when you need to.
No, I mean, all I was going to say was, so I guess really the whole thing, in answer to my question was, how can we avoid them? The answer really is to just seek legal advice and not to be afraid of it. And it comes back to what you were saying right at the very beginning. I think the reason people don't do this is because they fear it's going to cost them too much money. However, I think I would rather have the legal advice and to know that I was on the straight and the narrow, and if I needed to adjust anything, then I would know what to do, rather than getting myself into a big pickle and then having a huge expense later on. So
no, you're right. That is why people are reluctant, I think. Well, firstly, you don't know what you don't know is one thing.
Yes.
And to go to a solicitor and say, I'm just starting up this business, I don't know anything, can you tell me everything that I'm likely to need to know, is going to cost you a fortune if you do that. And secondly, yes, you're right, people think, and it's true, solicitors are expensive. If you were to engage me one-on-one, it would be £250 an hour, and that, for my level of experience, is actually a great rate. But that's how it is, because as lawyers we have very expensive regulatory matters to deal with. We have know-how databases that are very expensive that we have to keep up to date. It is an expensive industry.
Of course.
And so there's many reasons that I completely understand why small business owners just don't pay attention to legal matters. I completely get it. And
so
the
what
reason,
is it?
And the reason why I'm sort of moving away from my one-on-one work, because Alison, to be frank, I need a good sort of 10 of me to actually do all the one-on-one work that I'm being asked to do, and there aren't 10 of me,
I can imagine.
Unfortunately.
So what's your solution?
Well, so what I have been spending my time doing over the past year, it is purely because I do feel so strongly that people should have affordable access to this kind of issue and know the issues and the simple steps they can take to prevent it. So I have productized all of my know-how and experience and knowledge and put it into a package, is the simplest way of explaining it. And I call it my Small Business Legal Academy, and we launched it last year to a small number of select small business owners who have been trialing it for me. And we've done a very extensive feedback program and then refined it and launched a lovely new membership site. And there's really everything in there that a small business owner could possibly need. Now that might sound a bit daunting in itself, because there are over 100 pieces of hugely valuable content in there, from video guides, checklists, template documents, case studies, etc. And obviously that could, if it was all just there as that mass of documents, then that would probably be just as daunting to a small business owner. So what I've done is created a program within that, so that for people who really do want to be guided through the issues that are likely to affect them, there's an 8-week program that comes on the email every Monday, and it really just guides you through the key issues to think about in your business. So all of the issues that I've just talked about, for example, are covered, plus more. And so you follow that program, and it says, okay, so you need to work out whether the person working for you is a contractor or a freelancer. Why don't you go to the employment status checklist, have a look down that, and then it'll tell you what you need to do. And then it'll say, okay, so you need to go and get your employment agreement. So you trot off and you download the employment agreement and put that in place. So I've tried to make it as absolutely simple as possible for small business owners to firstly just understand the issues and then have the really simple tools that they need to put in place to protect themselves.
And Suzanne, I'm absolutely sure that you will have made that so user-friendly, just through my experience of working with you and from what other people have fed back to me as well. And that's what we need, the lay people need, you know. So one of the things that I'm always really clear about is that in these calls that, you know, whoever I'm chatting to, it is very much about our story and what have you. However, today I want to really make an exception because you are so unique. What you are offering is absolutely essential for every small business owner to have access to. So I'd love you to share with us, please, if you really don't mind, and I'm sure you don't mind, you know, how can we access this? How can any of the listeners from Winning Women today find out a little bit more about your Small Business Legal Academy, please?
Yeah, sure. I'm absolutely delighted for you to share it with your community, Alison. So at the moment, because as I think I said earlier, we've just got a brand new shiny membership site. So we're just doing a relaunch at the moment. So there is an offer at the moment, and that is if people want to read more about that, they can just go to smallbusinesslegalacademy.co.uk/offer, and that should tell them all they need to know. In fact, probably too much. There's probably too much information on there. But all they need to know about what is going to be provided in the academy, and read all of the loads of testimonials that we've got on there, and then obviously if it's right for them to go on and place the order. And at the moment for the offer period, it is, I mean, I'd say there's over 100 items of content. If I was to draft the legal documents on there, not even taking into account the video guides, checklists and everything else, but just the legal documents that are on there, then if I was doing that one-on-one, it would be over £15,000 worth of documents, just to give you an idea of the value. And for the offer period, people can get it for less than £1 a day. So that's just amazing. £297, and you get access to all of that plus the programme. And it's a 12-month membership, so everything is immediately accessible. And then you get, because it's constantly updated as well, so if there's changes in the law, etc., then all the, you know, guidance notes and everything and the templates are changed to reflect that. But also we do ongoing content, so there's monthly training sessions. So recent ones that we've done, there was the law on Facebook competitions, taking your product, your product from idea to reality for people who have, you know, a great idea but just don't know what to do with it. And future ones will be how to set up a franchise and how to prepare your business for sale. And there'll basically be one of those a month, and you get, even if you can't make it live where you can ask questions, then the recordings obviously go into the academy. So there's just going to be more and more content. So that's the price for 12 months, and then people can renew for a further 12 months for just £97. So what I've tried to put it, Alison, so that it really is affordable for every small business owner, and I think at that level it should be.
I totally agree. Yeah. And also, I mean, the whole live sessions there, they have the opportunity to ask you a question which, you know, would otherwise cost hundreds and hundreds of pounds.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's right. The 297 is actually what we call the standard membership. But for people who do want more on-demand legal guidance, then we do have a Facebook group where people can literally ask any question that they have about law. And that is, if people want to go on the page and read the testimonials, a lot of the current members do feel that is the most valuable aspect. And that's just another £200 for that. So that's £497 for the elite membership. And that literally lets you ask any questions you want on the Facebook group that are all answered personally by me for the 12-month period.
Amazing. Yeah. Right. Remind us again of the URL, please.
It's so www, obviously, .smallbusinesslegalacademy.co.uk/offer.
Fabulous. And Suzanne, when we post the replay of this, we will make sure that with the link that we actually put that up as well for you.
Great.
So,
Great stuff.
I mean, this is great. I could talk to you for absolutely hours because I think there is just so much that is really worth uncovering. Unfortunately, we don't have the time for that. But what I would love, I would absolutely love, everybody loves to have some tips. So, Suzanne, what would be your, or maybe one of your greatest golden nuggets that you could share with us that will really reassure us that our business is legal?
Oh gosh, what, just one?
Well, maybe one or two, because I appreciate that could differ. As I said it, I realised that it could be very different for every business, but yeah, because I guess, you know, when we're talking about this subject, we could really be opening a can of worms here, and suddenly, you know, we don't want to put people into fear, but we do need to make sure that we are protecting ourselves, particularly in this day and age. So,
No, that's
you know,
right.
if there is anybody, exactly, if there is anybody who's just feeling, oh my gosh, you know,
Yeah.
how could you reassure us that we are?
I think people are right to be concerned, but equally, I think that people need to know that, you know, there are simple steps that people can take to stop any of the nasty stuff happening, really. So don't be daunted, I suppose. Don't go for the head in the sand approach. It rarely pays off to stick your head in the sand. It really doesn't. You know, I've worked with too many small business owners to know that, you know, within a 5-year window, chances are something is going to go wrong in your business. And just really just understand that there are such simple things that you can do, you know, to stop all of that. There was a recent survey recently, Alison, where over £100 billion a year is wasted by UK small business owners on legal problems that could easily have been avoided. And that works out to, on average, per small business owner, that's £6,700 each for each business owner per year. So over a 5-year period, that's something like £33,500 that is likely to come out of our businesses because of legal issues that, in the main, we could have easily avoided. So the key message really, it's not a tip as such, because there isn't just one big tip, I suppose, that can wave a magic wand and you know, help you keep your business legal. But just the real thing to emphasize is that, you know, traditionally, I know that legal services have been out of reach, but there are steps you can take, very simple steps, when you know how, to protect your business. So don't think, oh God, that's too complicated, or that's going to take ages to sort out, or, you know, just take responsibility and be proactive and put some very simple steps in place to protect your business.
Fabulous. And we all know now who we need to come and find.
Yeah, well, I hope so. And if anyone's got any questions about the programme, you know, then obviously feel free to get in touch with me. I'm just email support@suzannedibble.com, and we will get back to you as soon as we can.
Fabulous. And I was also going to say that you are also a member of the Global Winning Women Live Facebook group as well.
I am.
I've seen you post in there a couple of times.
Yeah.
So we all know where to find you. Suzanne, as I said just before, you know, I'm just suddenly thinking lots and lots of questions I'd love to ask you. I think we may have to have you back again some other time with some really specifics.
Yes.
And also if people
Absolutely.
maybe, you know, comments following the you know, in a few days that, you know, they have further questions, you know, maybe we can actually consider the best way to responding to that, whether it would be another call or something like that. But for now, I just want to say a massive thank you. Thank you so much for joining me. I really do appreciate your time. You are an absolute star. Thank you for bringing everything that is, you know, potentially so complicated to the layperson's mind, and bringing it and, you know, just condensing it down into really simple language for us so that we can all understand it and we can actually really enjoy running our businesses without having to worry so much. I really thank you for that. So yeah.
Well, thank you for having me, Alison. I know we've been wanting to do this for a long time, so I'm glad that we finally got round to it. So, but no, any time if you want me to come back and talk about a specific issue that is particularly relevant to your community, I'll be absolutely delighted to do that.
Thank you once again, Suzanne.
Thank
Bye
you.
for now.
Bye.